Have roll call, please, Sharon.
Counselor Hughes. Here. Counselor McElroy.
Here.
Counselor Prokop. Here. Counselor Tenbush.
Here.
Counselor Metcalf is absent. And Counselor Strobel is absent. And Mayor Drinkwine.
Here, thank you very much for that, Sharon. All right, we're at the first citizen and community group comment, and it looks like I have one received via email. Is somebody going to read that off?
It's included in the packet. I could read it if you want, or.
Oh,
you
yeah.
can just
Do you want to
off.
read it or no? Are you fine with it? Everybody's had a chance to look at it, so. All right. And then we are at the consent agenda. Has everybody had a chance to read that? Can I get a motion? Go
I want to
ahead,
pull one of the items though.
All right.
Just make sure. Haven't seen, did it get pulled out already?
I did not pull it out
Okay,
yet.
I'd like to pull out the SDC item to discuss that a little bit further.
So
Okay.
C, 3C,
See? All right.
resolution for the system development charges for accessory dwelling unit. Move that down to council business.
Okay. Got it. Okay. Anybody want to give me a motion on the consent agenda minus that?
I move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Second.
We got a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, we are at department and committee reports. I will start off with you, Jerry.
Okay, so the Arts Commission is putting together, they've been working or talking with Dawn. They're putting together poetry in public places. And so they're going to be they don't have the exacts of it hammered out, but it's just going to be an opportunity. They're going to have people's printed poetry. There will be a placard, basically. Public Works is going to put it in the ground. They're going to have the printed poetry around in public places. And they haven't like nailed out all the places that they're going to have it put, but it's pretty cool. Just another way to just show the community the talent we have here in Estacada, as far as arts and culture and poetry. So that's that from oh no, that's not it. They got a gift from the Skip a Week Quilt Club. It's a really, really cool quilt that was gifted to the Arts Commission. They're going to have it framed, and that is at least as of the meeting, that was the planned public art for the year. So it's not costing the city anything other than framing. So that's pretty cool. I believe they're gonna want to have it put up next to the big quilt. It's not quite that large, but it's a pretty cool quilt. Then moving on to the Downtown Estacada Commission, they've got huge plans for this Christmas tree lighting ceremony. It's going to be, if they can even do half of what they have planned, it's going to be a phenomenal Christmas tree lighting. I'm really excited for it. Like I said, it's going to start down at the square next to Harvest Market, and then it's going to involve all the businesses coming up. And then end here at City Hall with photos with Santa, hot chocolate, cider, that type of thing. It's going to be pretty cool. I'm really excited for it, and can't wait to get there.
All right.
It's coming up pretty quick. Oh, that's December 6th starting at 6 p.m.
Great, thank you.
All right, so Clackamas County Health, Housing, and Human Services came and did a presentation to the DEI about the overdose crisis and naloxone training. It was very beneficial, and I highly recommend everyone going back and rewatching it on YouTube. We're the first city to ask for a presentation, so it's great that one of our committees to show that initiative to help our community this way. The DEI may be interested in using some of their budget on naloxone kits. And they'd like to coordinate with the Estacada Prevention Alliance with Todos Juntos to bring more prevention efforts into the community and schools. The Estacada Prevention Alliance has participated during at least one football game that I'm aware of. And on December 17th, they'll be at a basketball game, and they'll give some information out there. And then Clackamas County Health, Housing, and Human Services has a harm reduction work group, and they'd like to coordinate with the DEI committee and Todos Juntos. It was just a fantastic meeting with so many people that care about our community.
Great.
the Economic Development Committee met and there was, had some discussions about the planning of the December event with businesses and the Economic Development Committee together. Worked out a few of the details for that. And then there was a lengthy discussion about two candidates that applied for an open position. And there's a little bit of confusion about how many spots were available. So they both got approved. So there's going to be another meeting. At the next meeting, we're going to have a little bit more discussion about who they want to recommend for that position, and we'll bring that back.
Good,
The
good.
committee will bring that back at the next meeting.
So do we need to take that off our agenda for tonight?
What's that?
I think we'll just.
Yeah, we were gonna bump that off.
Oh, okay.
They wanted to talk a little bit more about it. I don't want to take away from that discussion. I
Good,
think they
good,
should have
good.
that, so.
Cool.
All right. So Charity.
I have nothing at this time.
Okay, now that's first.
I know, I usually do.
Okay, so look at our city manager. What do you got?
Okay, Taryn, want to share my presentation? This is a little longer than normal, but I'll try to go through it without dragging my feet. Okay, here's my first slide. So I just want to give a quick update on city projects. We have two projects going on right now. The Hillway project is making good progress. I would hazard a guess with the rain that we've had lately. They're really glad to be out of the dirt. But there's been a few unexpected things I've run across in the project, but all in all, it's going well and they're moving forward. And then the splash pad is also moving forward. That's the picture on the right. That was a nice day before there was too much mud out there. But they are doing a great job. They're being very conscientious about their work, and they're allowing access to the rest of the park and just moving ahead. So it looks like that will be finishing up in February, by February, early March, by the time that will be ready to go. So we'll be ready by the time we get some hot weather around Memorial Day. All right, next slide. All right, I just want to report out on some great volunteerism that occurred over the Veterans Day weekend with our Bee City USA volunteers. One project was at 6th and Main, and one was at the Estacada Public Library. Next slide. And this is just some comments about that I gathered from the folks who were leading that. You can see the pictures. They're working. If you remember, it was just bark chips there, and they have completely transformed that area. But a couple comments about the volunteers. We had two women show up, one with her two girls and another with an infant strapped to her while she worked. They were fantastic workers and fun to have on site. And a big thank you to John of Backyard Natives, who he put in a full day and brought two others with him to lay those pavers for the path, which I have heard from high schoolers is very nice to get to Cup of Joe with a direct path now. And he also helped plant the 60+ plants, all of which were donated from Backyard Natives. So thank you to John. And then Estacada Bark and Nursery waived the delivery fee, gave a discounted price for the compost, went above and beyond to help. And then one guy even came back to help after his shift at Estacada Bark and Nursery. Ace Hardware and Harvest Market provided the cardboard at the library, which you'll see shortly. And then thank you also to the library staff who helped with promoting that project and cheered them on while they were doing it. So if we go to the next slide, we will see this is at the library. The bottom is before and after. That's on the south side of the library, close to the creek. So I had to ask because I wasn't sure what the outcome of this is. It used to be grass. Now it is mulch. And I have learned that actually a lawn is not great for stormwater retention. The water tends to just run off of that and go straight towards the creek. And so what the outcome of this will be is that it will be a pollinator garden with a path through it to make it accessible. And they covered the grass with a layer of cardboard and then a couple inches of compost, and that gets rid of the grass in a natural way. And it just decomposes under there. And they spread native wildflower seed through the space, so those will be ready to sprout in the spring. And then they'll have a little bit more work to do in the spring. They'll come back for a possible bench and sign and to put a pathway in. Those shrubs were already there and they're natives and provide habitat, so they're going to leave them and also plant some additional perennial native flowers. So if we have one more slide with a couple of the volunteers, you'll see that's Merrick on the right, who has headed up the Bee City USA program. And I believe that's his brother on the left in the green pants with the shovel in that steaming compost, I think. So they were out there working hard. So big shout out and thank you to all the people that helped on that weekend, spent a lot of volunteer hours, and we're excited about that. All right, the next thing I want to talk about is the tiered water rates that are coming up in January. So that was a conversation that we had several months ago with Steve Donovan doing our rate study and then talking with the council. So I as it's coming around towards January, I wanted to go over it again. And there's two goals with the tiered water rates. And one is incentives for water conservation, and two is providing an ability for the city to recover the costs of providing water service, because we're not in it to make money or make a profit, but it's a cost recovery type of a program that provides the water. All right, next slide. So a little bit of background. The city completed a rate study, which has identified water system costs, rate structure alternatives, and equitable cost recovery methods. That was what Steve Donovan helped us with. And then if anybody wants more information on that or wants to go back and see the discussion, go back to the June 10th, 2024 meeting on the city YouTube. That's the workshop that the council held. So you can get more information there. Next slide. So why should we conserve water? Why are we even talking about this? First of all, it will help people save money on their monthly utility bill. And we did hand out, we took flyers, a little bag of information, actually door to door, on water conservation programs that Clackamas River Water provides at no cost to people in that are members, which Esticade is a member. So we dropped those off and shared some things that the city is doing to conserve water, and as well as asking them to help conserve and ways that they could do that. But it will save money for the households. It will contribute to reducing the amount of water being used, especially in the summer. And Esticade does have a limited water right. And also using less water means more water stays in the river. So we want to use what we need. And that's the goal of the city, I think, is to provide the amount of water that's needed, but not waste water. So it's something that I think Sesame Street talks about, but I kind of forgot about that for a while. I leave my water running. So I'm trying to bring that back around. All right, next slide. What is the city doing to conserve water? So we're not just asking our residents to conserve, but what is the city doing to conserve? We're eliminating leaks in water mains to reduce water waste, because we found out last summer that we have a high percentage of leakage somewhere in our system. And so we're going to be identifying those leaks. We have a new water conservation master plan that is guiding that work. And so we'll be budgeting funds to do that. And water saved is like, you know, we could increase our water rights, or we could just save what we're losing. So we're going to go for saving what we're losing first. We're also going to reduce irrigation in city parks during the highest water use days to allow the community members to be able to have that water for their homes. We are going to add an additional water storage reservoir, which will, by adding storage, that just increases our redundancy in the water that's available to us. Upgrade the water treatment plant over the next couple of years to be able to produce our full allowance of water each day, which is 2.6 million gallons a day that we're allowed to pull out of the Clackamas River. And then we're going to incentivize lower water use by adopting a tiered rate structure and communicate with our community about ways to reduce water use. So all those areas are things that we're working on. Next slide. So what does a tiered rate schedule look like? There is a base rate, which will be where 80% of our users fall. They will be in this first base rate. It's up to 15,000 gallons per month, per unit, so per household or per business, or less. And that accounts for 80% of the water customers. There's no extra charge. And the current charge for that base rate is $4 per 1,000 gallons of water. Then if you use over 15,000 gallons, you'd be charged that $4 per gallon for the first 15,000 you use, and say you use 17,000 gallons. That next 2,000 gallons that you used would be charged at the tier 1 level, which is an additional 15%. So that'd be $4.60 per 1,000 gallons. Doesn't make you say ouch too much, but I think it will help by having that, the difference. Like, I don't know, I don't typically, like if I'm looking at my power bill, sometimes I look at how much power did I use, but not always. But if there's like, if I got charged different rates, I think it would raise my awareness to say, hey, did I hit over that? Did I get over that? Or was I able to stay under? So I think that will help raise awareness. And then if there's the third level is tier 2, and that's over 30,000 gallons per month, which is quite a lot of water for one unit. There'll be one household or one business. And that will be, the council recommended a 50% increase in that. So $6 per 1,000 gallons. Yes.
So
Councilor
is it the
Stenbush?
first 15 at the tier 1 rate, the next 15 at the tier 2 rate, and anything above is at the tier 3 rate?
Yes,
Okay,
that's
thank you.
correct.
I have another question
Mhm.
on that. Is that, so if you're paying $4.60 per 1,000 gallons, is that after you've gone over that 15,000? Or is that, so are you paying $4.60 total, or is that $4.60 after you've hit that?
460 after. So say
Okay.
you did, like this, say you did 20,000 gallons.
Right.
So the first 15,000 would
Would
be
four,
$4.
And then 5
And
would
then
be, four.
5
Okay.
would be at
Okay.
460. Yep. Yep. So that's what we're looking at. That will, I can't remember what's on my next slide. Okay, I guess I'll just go to the next slide before I ramble on too much. So what's the timing? And a resolution will be presented to the council at your December 9th meeting that will line out this new rate schedule. And if it is passed by the council, it would go into effect January 1st, 2025. And it's the council, when they were just, I think it was in June when you were
Yeah.
discussing it, we decided not to do it right away because that's when people are using the most water. So this way, we've done a lot of promotion about, we had that chart on our website that showed the daily water use through the summer. And then we did all the flyers and handouts that we delivered door to door. And now this is the lowest water usage time of the year, so it should allow people to kind of be able to adjust and start paying attention as we go into the late spring and summer weather. So that's all I have. Questions?
All right, great.
Questions, more
Charity.
discussion?
Yeah, in regards to the water, so, definitely for conservation. I know we talked in the past about reaching out for looking to increase our water rights, and I don't know where, I'm trying to remember where we were on that, because I know that was kind of a very far-fetched,
Mhm.
a big ask. So I'm
Mhm.
just seeing if we've
It-
heard anything back on that.
It is still on the list. Kurt, when he was here, said that we can ask PGE for an extra release of water from Timothy. That was not something I was aware of, so I learned that from Kurt. So we need to reach out to an attorney who could potentially get us some extra water rights. We'll also be able to reuse or count the reuse of water once we get our new water system, wastewater system
Mhm.
for about 500,000 gallons that we could count towards reuse, which could expand that. So it's still in the works. I guess I should say it's just still in the
Okay.
works. We have nothing concrete to report yet.
Okay.
Sure.
So while we're on the topic of water, I saw recently a certificate posted, and I'll let you speak to that since you know more about it, but that's pretty exciting, pretty cool information.
Yes, we did just get an award for being a member of the Clackamas River Water Providers, and they do a lot of work in source protection, which is, we're at the top of the Clackamas River, so the source of the Clackamas River is on up from here, and they do a lot of work in that, and we're able to participate along with them. And so I do have to say thank you to Kim and Christine at Clackamas River Water Providers, because they spearhead a lot of that. But it is a benefit truly for us also. And so we did get an award. I was going to see if I could find it here so I say what it is correctly. And I can't, but it was an award, I believe, from OHA for water source protection efforts. And so thank you, council, for letting us participate with the
Yeah.
Clackamas River Water Providers.
All right. Any other questions? No? Peter, you got something for us tonight?
Yeah, I have a couple of things. people have been asking me for updates regarding the apartment project. We did get fire suppression plans from them as well as fire alarm plans from them. So that is a complete application. I sat down with Mads to go over things just because I wanted a better because I keep getting called by their lawyer, and so I want to really understand. And Mads is going to be doing their own review of everything, but preliminarily, we noticed a couple of items, the fire suppression that is going to be required is a 13. What they had plans for is a 13R, which is a smaller one. So we're going to need new plans. And then there are also, it appears that the building envelope for a couple of their buildings is in our utility easement, and obviously we can't have a building in the city's easement. So they're going to, I'm sure there'll be other things that Mads will catch as well, but it seems like there are going to be some, obviously, more materials and everything, and as well as the recalculation of fees, because 13 requires a larger water meter than a 13R. So learning a lot about mechanical planning. So, and then the other thing that I would say is that the state's rolling out some new rules related to adjustments that'll be needed to made for housing applications, probably most commonly for subdivisions. So if we have clear and objective standards that would not allow something, these would allow the developers to ask for an adjustment, and we would need to provide them with an adjustment. The adjustments are not to any of the fire, health, life, safety stuff. So, but it could be to something like lot sizes. So this sort of thing that we're normally seeing in the past related to a planned unit development, and some of that flexibility that we're allowed to have, that's kind of being imposed upon us by the state for a wider variety of projects. So we're all working to understand this and the exact impacts. And we'll be figuring it out over the next few months.
So is this, pardon me, just a minute. Is this locked in that they can override us on this lot size issue that they're talking about now? Is this like set in stone? Are we going to have to abide by this going forward?
Well, it's somewhat set in stone. It provides an alternate process if we're going to reject somebody. So instead of them then having to submit an entirely new application, they would say, would you agree to this adjustment? And it's supposed to expedite the review of these sort of land use decisions. I don't know that it will actually do that, but there's some pretty broad carve outs. So when you first read it, you think, wow, this is
Overreach.
yeah, I mean your phrase, but it could very easily come to mind when you read this. I mean, I was reading that chapter and I was thinking, and fortunately there's some pretty large carve outs related to the fire, health, safety stuff. So for instance, our firefighters, they can't aerially fight a fire more than 30 feet. So that limits our building heights or requires people to have a much larger fire suppression sprinkler system. So that sort of thing isn't going to change. But yeah, I mean, they just keep reducing and reducing how much autonomy we can have. Yeah.
Is it just lot size adjustments, or is it types of, like, are they going to be able to do adjustments to types of acceptable housing in an R1 zone, for instance?
No, that's not going to change as far as this goes. This is, again, this is like, we're on the cusp of rejecting the thing, and then they say, well, we'd like this adjustment. And so normally that wouldn't happen. I mean, normally it's their application, our reviews, our review. You know, if you guys can make a decision one way or the other, a lot of times you can't, then you can. This is like, as this happens and you're like, well, we're going to vote not to allow this, then it provides, I don't even want to call it a parallel path, like a pause button for them to then consider it. Yeah,
Where can we find more information on that?
we'll get you a copy of the Senate bill.
Okay. You
I
know what
think
the
it's
Senate bill is?
I think it's 1573.
1573.
Thank you, Peter.
So my question is, I don't want it to happen to us again, what happened to us in the subdivision over off of Deuce, where they're putting $500,000 houses on smaller lots. So I'm just really scared that this is gonna contribute to that. If they can cut our lot sizes down, you know, they're just gonna build $600,000 houses on these smaller lots. So I'm just, I guess I'll read more into the Senate bill and see what, you know, what it is, but that's just my fear, is we're gonna have these gigantic overpriced homes on very small lots.
I mean, that, to be honest, that's a trend that I'm seeing in every city. You know, the cost of the lot size is so high that the only way people are able to make money is to go with a bigger home on it. I mean, if you're paying 125, if you're a developer paying $125,000 a lot, you're not going to build a 1,200 square foot. You know, after all the SDCs, everything else, yeah, it takes a bigger building to justify the price, and that's the trend we're seeing.
Then you get to rent your land back for $600 a month for the rest of your life from the state taxes. It's crazy.
Just keep squeezing.
All
right.
I found the word.
Did you?
We need some good news.
Okay, here's the good news. It's the Drinking Water Source Protection Award. It's from OHA and DEQ. And it acknowledges protection activities that substantially lower risks to the public water system's source of drinking water. And we, along with the other members of Clackamas River Water Providers, received that award to acknowledge that work that is being done.
Okay.
Thanks, Councilor Tenbush, for remembering that.
Any other questions for you? No? All right. Moving forward, we're at council business, and we'll probably discuss the first thing on there that you moved down. And that was on the SDCs.
Yeah, the discussion I wanted to have about it was just making sure that if it's STCs for an ADU that's within an existing footprint of a house, if there's no additional burden on the system, that they're not being charged STCs when there's no additional burden. So for instance, if you're taking a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house and splitting it into 2 2-bedroom, 1-bath houses, there's no additional bathrooms going in. So there's no additional burden on the sewer system. So you shouldn't be charging SDC for the sewer system. If it's a separate ADU outside of the building that's adding additional burden, I could see the argument being made, and I think that's right. You're adding burden to the system. You should make a contribution to the SDCs for it. But if you're not changing the footprint of the house, you don't have any extra impermeable surfaces that's creating water runoff of the storm system. So you shouldn't be charging storm SDC. If you're creating a new roof system that's going to be adding load to the system, then an SDC for storm should be charged. I could see the argument for transportation because you might have a half person or one person more on average in that same space if it's within the, my whole argument is just about if it's an ADU being added to an existing footprint, modifying the layout inside internally in a building, that we should take a look at and have language in there that defines when the SDC is applied and when it's not just a broad stroke that all ADUs are going to pay these 50% SDCs if there's no extra burden being put on the system.
Want to
Is-
speak first or?
Yeah, so so what we've been seeing as far as ADUs and SDK, it'll be a house and then there'll be a separate, they used to call them mother-in-law suites. I don't know if they call them that anymore. And it's a second, it could be a second family. It's usually 1 or 2 people. So, I mean, I think that the reason that our engineer suggested the 50% is because oftentimes the ADUs that we're seeing are smaller, so like they'll probably maybe use less water than a family might, or less sewer than a family might, but it is adding another it is adding
Dwelling
a
unit.
dwelling or a second like family or individual that wouldn't necessarily be in the first one.
Yeah.
So it's like if where I grew up was near a college, and a lot of people would have like an ADU and they rent them to like a college student.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that person's probably going to use less water and sewer, because it'd be one person living in a little like studio type of thing. But it's more than would be generated by the family of four that are living in the main house. And so we were trying to figure out, okay, how can we be fair? How can we kind of capture that, yeah, there is an impact on the system because there are additional people that wouldn't be there, but also make it so that, it's more equitable to the person that might be interested in either converting one or building one. And when Melanie and I were talking about it, I was like, well, because some people are like, well, do you even charge SDCs for the ADUs? And it's like, well, they are having an impact on the system. And then if we weren't charging them for like a small ADU, then I think it would open us up to an argument that like studio apartments also, those have a small impact as compared to like a 5-bedroom home probably. And so that was another consideration we were looking at, was how do we measure like a unit that is in a residential unit but also less likely to be using as much stuff. But if you guys wanted to go with the percentage other than 50% or however you want to structure it.
I think, and like, correct me if I'm wrong, are you just looking for language that would differentiate the different types of ADUs? So if
Yes.
somebody, yeah, so I think if we could maybe put something like that in the code where we could have a differentiation between, okay, we're just splitting up a house or maybe restructuring a house and it's not putting additional burden on the system, have separate language for that, as opposed to actually having what we normally do see in an ADU.
And
Am
it could be real
correct?
clear language, like if you're not adding a bathroom, there's no SDC for the sewer.
But they are adding a kitchen
They're adding a person.
and
I
a
mean,
kitchen.
into the system, yeah.
If it's within the same footprint of if you've got a 2,000 square foot house with 2 bathrooms, you can fit so many people and so many people are going to use the bathrooms, right? If you split the house in half, you can fit the same number of people in that house with the
You're-
same
You're
number.
still adding a sink and a dishwasher, possibly. Washer and dryer too.
So are you
There's-
thinking of remodels, or, because like what we're seeing
Yes,
now?
that's what I'm thinking of, just remodels.
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 Because a
is-
lot of our ADUs that we're seeing is like a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house that's built with a common, it's like a common wall house almost. There's the house and the ADU is new construction built this way. And then there's like 2 bedrooms and 1.5 baths on this side and 3 bedrooms and 2 baths on this side. And they are one, They're
in
one
building
structure.
envelope.
but they are built, designed to be 2 units. And so
New construction, right?
that's a new construction.
Yes.
So you're
Yeah.
thinking just
Remodels,
remodels.
just remodels. Yeah,
If they're not adding a bedroom or a bathroom, they're just dividing up what was,
yes,
but,
an existing
okay,
space.
we could look into that.
And then I think it should be proportional to like if the average square footage for houses in Estacada is 2,400 square feet and an ADU's max at 900 square
900.
feet, then it should be proportional to the average of what we're using to apply the other SDC. So 50% I get that's just a number, it's an easy number to go with, but if the average square footage of a house in Estacada that we're charging or basing our SDCs on is 2,400 square feet, and an ADU is maxed at 900, just divide the 900 by 2,400, and that's the percentage to use on the ADUs.
Okay.
Across the board, I think would
We
be
can
a fair
we
way
should
to
probably
go.
bring back We should probably bring this back with some concepts.
We probably should. Yeah, thinking on the fly here. Because I understand that what you're saying, I think with the remodels and you're not really you're just putting a firewall down the middle. But typically it wouldn't be an ADU if it didn't have a separate kitchen. That's kind of, I think when you put the stove and the
Stove and laundry
dishwasher.
facilities.
Yeah,
is
that's what makes it a
differentiates.
separate unit.
Yeah.
And so, we could chew on this a little bit and see if there's a way to,
And there's not,
Mm.
there can be a correlation between the size of the house and the number of people in it, but a lot of times there's not. You know, it's like,
What brought it up for me was in the storm language. Kurt says, many ADUs are built into the existing home, so do not necessarily increase the impermeable area. And that was the argument made for, or was talking about storm fees not
Mhm.
being charged. Well, I
Right.
just think that train of thought should be applied across the board to everything. If you're not adding burden, there's no SDC. If you're adding limited burden, like say you're adding a kitchen sink, you're not adding a bathroom and you're adding that, it'd be real easy to just put a number to that. This is the percentage of the SD fee for adding a kitchen or adding that, and you could have real concrete. I'm not looking to create a whole lot of work for
Right.
the planning department. I just think that we could put some thought into it on the front end before it starts getting charged to people.
So if I go 900 divided by 2,400, that's about.
I just made
30.
that number
Oh,
up. Yeah, I
it's
just made that
probably-
number.
it's
I don't know.
probably- Well, a lot of the houses are 1,500 square feet now.
Most.
And if it's not a number that we can find out an average square foot, then so be it, then we
Okay.
can just come up with it. 50% is what, more important than the percentage was just if they're not
That
adding
it's
burden.
equitable,
yeah.
that it's equitable. And that, the thing I struggle with is that it is a separate legal, like, it's a separate dwelling unit. So, yeah, we could think about that. Any other thoughts on that? Just,
Any critiques?
uh,
All right, so see
Okay.
if we can bring it back, a little bit more defined, so we
maybe,
can.
maybe bring them a few different options back,
okay,
Yeah,
so that they can kind of.
fair enough.
okey dokey.
All right. Okay, next on my list of the commission appointments, we're gonna hold off on that, let them have a discussion on that. So the next thing I have is code discussion, EMC chapter 16.76, off-street parking requirements.
Yeah, so this came up, there was actually a application for kind of a youth sports type of thing in our industrial campus. And it had a lot of off-street parking spaces. So it's called All in Sports. New business providing young athletes an indoor space to practice an array of skills. And under our calculation, they would have to have 63 spots. And as we were thinking about when they would be using, it's just a huge burden. And also like a lot of the classes and stuff are after business hours. So when other businesses in the park, their employees have left and there's, there are not a lot of people parking on the street, is more when these folks that offer after school evening sort of courses. So to us, it didn't seem like it seemed like this would be an example of where we would benefit from having some flexibility. Another one was the Estacada Secure Storage, which is a new self-storage and required to have 29 spots. Most self-storage, like people drop the stuff off and they might not visit it for a year, it can be a long time. So like our thought was to check with you guys to see whether we could have kind of a carve out that if a person was able to present like clear and objective evidence that they were not going to have an impact, like with a facility of their size, that we would have a workaround so that we could make it something that is more fair. Because for example, like All in Sports was able to do deals with some of the surrounding businesses and use their parking spots. But the more Melanie and I talked about it, a lot of times parents will be dropping their kids off. They won't even be parking and then picking them back up. And it's just like a lot of the kids using this are under the age of 16, so they're not going to be driving themselves to it anyway. So that's kind of why we want to have the conversation. And if this is something that council was interested in having as an agenda item, we could bring in some concepts for some kind of off-ramp type of program. And then the other thing we were talking about is that for the downtown, really could impact what businesses can and can't go in. And, you know, there's a lot of street parking anyway. And so that might be another category where we would, you know, take a look and just to give us some more flexibility to allow some of these businesses maybe.
I'd like to see, I like the idea of having a variance option for the businesses, as long as it's an enforceable variance.
Yeah.
So that once it's put into place, if what they're stating is not the case, that it's revocable.
Yeah.
Because if someone tells us one thing that they're only gonna have 20 cars there, and then it turns out it's gonna have, and I know where the location of that business and some of the business concerns in that area in the park are. We have a lot of businesses in the park currently that have like 4 parking spots and have 40 cars parked on the street every day,
Right.
literally lining the streets because they don't provide enough parking for the amount of employees that they have in there. And so I would hate to see that happen, but a variance, I don't like the idea of the city manager or the planning department, a single person being responsible for that variance. I'd rather that go to the planning commission for the variance so that a committee of people, so that there's less chance of someone saying that someone's playing favoritism and one person's getting, one type of business is getting favoritism over another one that's proposed, because it's going to put all that burden on the city staff. And we've had problems in the past with the community attacking our, the head of our planning department. When Taylor was here, she got attacked all the time about things that weren't in her control. And I'd hate to put all that pressure on either the head of our planning department or our city manager. I'd rather that go to a committee that's made up of community members that were appointed by the council, and then they could give their recommendation. Or even it, I don't even care if it comes to the council at that point. If it goes to the planning commission, I think they're well equipped to do that. And then just making sure that language is in there that it's a revocable variance. So that if they're not performing the way that they're saying that they're going to perform, that we can pull that, and that would in turn pull their business license.
Right.
It'd be revocable to that extent.
So, I agree, completely agree with Mike. So the example that came into my head is, you know, with All In Sports is right now, yes, the programs that they have set up are typically going to be after hours, but then, you know, as their business grows, they could be holding, you know, basketball tournaments that, you know, games are played throughout the day, and that would, you know, put more people park, you know, participants, spectators, you know, as their business grows and, you know, and they develop, there's going to be more opportunities for stuff that, you know, for them to, host events like that. And that's my fear, is that, you know, then that parking goes into, you know, the day, you know, the day's work where all of those businesses are open, and, you know, they've got deliveries coming in and out, they've got, you know, whatnot. But, you know, that's my fear there in that specific situation, is that businesses, you know, if that business does grow the way that they plan on it growing, there's going to be a lot of opportunities for them to host events like that. And parking is going to be, you know, a big deal for
Yeah,
those
you're
events.
Absolutely right. So I think taking it back and taking a look at it, and like you said, carving out a certain map for us that would work would be the way to go, and then bring it back to us with some ideas. And I think everybody here would be,
Kind of consensus on that, because this is Title 16, which is why we're coming to you to ask to work on it rather than coming to you with specific ideas
yeah,
ahead of time. So if it's all right with the council, we'll go ahead and I'll have
yeah, I think everybody's
Alan
on
get
board with
working
that.
on this with some, we could even do something similar to like the downtown design, where if it's cut and dry, they're painting it the same color. You know, it's just a staff decision. And then there's the tier 2. If it's more complex, it goes, because they could get a variance right now. Although usually this is for like a business license, getting a variance. wouldn't, it doesn't really cross over, but we could, but it's $850 and takes 2 or 3 months to get through. So if we could do, we'll try to come back to you with some ideas that would be less costly and less time consuming, that, but also have just as good an oversight. So you have multiple minds working on it to ask those questions that, looks good today, what's going to happen tomorrow? So,
Great.
all right, thank you, but we'll work on that and bring it back.
Right.
Thank you.
Last on my list is a resolution 2024-024, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Estacada detailing the reimbursement policy for city council expenses.
All right. So we have not, it does say in the charter that the council is allowed to be reimbursed for their expenses. We haven't ever specifically defined those or how you would, like, you go to LOC training, how do you get that reimbursement for mileage or whatever. So this is designed, the resolution is designed to assist with spelling that out. But I also added in a reimbursement for cellular and internet, because I know you use your cell phones and you have to have internet. And you have your emails that you communicate with the citizens a lot, phone calls, people call you. And so a partial reimbursement, it wouldn't be full, but I'm proposing $75 a month for a reimbursement, and we probably pay that out quarterly rather than doing checks every month. But since it would benefit the counselors who are remaining, Peter has advised that really should just be counselors leaving who would be able to vote on this.
Everyone else will just recuse themselves.
Yes, and everyone else, if you like this, I
That's for you, Charity.
We're gonna have to bring it back because we would need a
a motion.
a motion and a second.
Since Paul is not here. Since Paul's not here tonight, yeah, we'll have to.
Move and second.
And there would be a quorum because the mayor would be included in that, correct? Because it's the 3 counselors and the mayor whose seats are up for were up for reelection. So there would be
Right,
a
but-
quorum because there would be 4 of them.
But they are.
No, because we're not all leaving. They're
Yeah,
talking about
It's
the
just
ones
me
that's
and
leaving.
Paul.
So if all of you recuse yourselves from the decision, then there would be 2 people at the meeting and then it would just, if one chose not to second, we would have problems, but otherwise it could just move through. And again, this is already allowed. We're just trying to provide parameters so everybody understands. And also, so like, if you're going to an LOC training, if you're going to a site visit somewhere,
Clackamas City.
nobody would be surprised. But then if you're like, oh, I feel like eating at that restaurant, and we'll talk some city business, like that wouldn't be, it would be just, parameters for these are qualifying events. And then, the internet stuff is that a requirement? I mean, now you guys need it. And so we just looked at what other cities are commonly doing. And this is one that nearly every city has.
Fair enough.
So if I would have done this prior to the election, we wouldn't have known if you were coming back, Mayor, and maybe that would have allowed you to vote. But in this case, we'll put it back on the agenda for next time, unless you have any concerns about what you want to share now. So,
As long as we're in line with most of the cities, I feel comfortable with that.
all right, thank you.
All right, thank
See it
you.
again in December.
All right. Okay, we were at citizen and community group comment second time around. Do I have any online? Anybody in the room wishes to speak? No? All right. Wow, you guys are making this easy. Okay, mayor and council reports and comments. I'll start off with Jerry. I'm going to yield my time to talk about a counselor who was just elected here in a minute, so I will speak on that tonight. So Jerry, you go ahead.
Well, I also want to speak on that, so I don't want to take away from
Okay, then I'll go for it.
anybody else's thunder.
That way you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
Okay, we just recently had a counselor who was voted in the election. His name is Michael Crossett, a good man, good family man. He was really excited to get the position and I feel for him. I mean, after hearing his story of what happened to him and the things his family are suffering through around this holiday season and dealing with their father and husband, I feel like This is very important to our community. And I just want everybody to know, he was everything that embodies this community. When he came in here and he ran for election and all the candidates were up there and we were all trying to think of the right answer to answer when they asked us, what's the most important thing that you're going to do? And he said, well, the most important thing in my life is my family first. And to me, that was the ultimate answer for anybody to answer. He didn't mix words. He didn't try to say anything to make anybody happy. He just said it like it was. He is a family man and it comes first. To me, that's everything you need to know about this man. So I would hope that if you have extra this holiday season, or you feel the need to do something meaningful, you will give to this man. He has a GoFundMe. What is the thing on that? Do you have?
If you just go to GoFundMe and search Michael Crossett, it'll come up on there. And the page is still open now. So yeah, I would encourage anyone that can to do that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I think it's really hard to deal with for me because I feel like he gave to the community and he was just elected. And then all of a sudden like this happens to him. And, you know, there's so many things we take for granted and then one day changes everything. So please just think about it going forward, and I will yield my time to that. Go ahead.
Okay, so just to add on to that, I just recently met Michael Crossett, but his wife works with works in the same company that my wife does, and just talking, I talked to a lot of the employees there and close with them. Talking to them, I learned a lot more about Michael Crossett after hearing about this terrible accident than I did before, and that's bad on me. He, as Sean said, he is a family man, and well, just to cut this short, my family's hearts, his family is in my family's hearts, and we're hoping the best for him. And as I said to Councilor McElroy today, you know, I don't know if every counselor feels the same way I did when I got elected to this position, but it was a huge accomplishment for me to be elected to this, and for him to get elected and then this accident happened. That is just devastating. That's terrible. And but like I said, his family, him and his family are in my family's hearts, and this is very devastating. And if you can, as the mayor asked, if you can donate to the GoFundMe, it would go a long way towards all of the. I'm sure it's going to be a lot in the millions of medical bills. So anything helps. Thank you, guys. Crossett.
You got it.
CROSSETTE. Okay.
Double S, double T.
My thoughts are with the Crossett family, and I just want to yield my time.
Can't help but make a couple comments about it. I've been staying in communication with the family and many members of the community, prayer warriors, everyone calling with concerns. And I just want to thank all the members of the community that are surrounding the family with their love and their prayers and just being there for them. The Crossett family has a long haul ahead of them. It's not something that's going to be, you know, an accident happened and a couple weeks later, they're going to be okay. They're going to be struggling and battling this for the years to come. So I think it's a great opportunity for the community to come together, especially during the holiday season, and support this family. Mike I know him pretty well, and I've got the chance to hang out with him quite a bit because one of his children is close friends with one of my children, and he's just a great man, not just a great family man, just a great all-around man, a strong member of the community that can volunteered his time, has spent time speaking life and guidance into some of our youth when he coached baseball, when he coached football. He's got an opportunity to, you know, add value to the lives of a lot of the children of our community, and hanging out on the sideline, cheering with Aubrey and Mike while our kids played sports was a great time. He's just a great individual, and the whole family's great. So I would just say, we're in it with them for the long haul, and I hope that the rest of the community can stand beside them and be with them for the long haul as well. And just thank all of the people that have called with concerns and all the prayers that are going out for them. I really appreciate it. Want to thank everyone for coming tonight and all the work that got put in by Peter and the staff for getting ready for the meeting tonight. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Verity.
Yeah, I just want to basically echo all of the sentiment that was already provided by the other counselors in regards to Michael. When I found out about the accident, I was pretty heartsick about it. That's very devastating. I can't imagine what the family is going through right now. So other than, I'd like to yield my time, but I also want to leave with this last thought. And I do want to congratulate the other counselors that were elected into the position. I don't want to diminish that as we are kind of taking more of a somber approach to this, but so I'd like to congratulate those as well. And I thank everybody for coming out tonight, and I would encourage you, like the other counselors have mentioned, to look into the GoFundMe. And if you do know the family, please, I'm sure they're really guarding their time with text messaging and calling and all of that. But I would just ask that you would, keep them in your prayers and donate if you can. And if you cannot, maybe find a way that you could help the family out, either around their house, mow their lawn, those sorts of things. They go a long way. So that's all I have to say.
Mike, you won't say.
One more quick comment just about, and I appreciate the conversation about the medical bills, and the GoFundMe is more about bridging the gap for money to keep a roof over their head, to keep groceries on their table, to keep heat on in their house. Mike was not the sole bread. Aubrey works part-time, but Mike was the main breadwinner for that household. And that income not being there is going to be a huge impact while the delay comes in between now and when any compensation can come from workers' comp or otherwise. And so we're looking to fill that gap, to be able to buy Christmas presents, to be able to do things like that. And that's the main use of that GoFundMe. So it's not there is going to be huge amounts of medical bills, and that may discourage someone from wanting to contribute. But what that GoFundMe is there for is to directly help the family out with paying bills and to be able to just provide for their kids and things like that. So I just want to clarify that real quick.
All right, and I just wanted to add one more thing as well. I know that we are building a brand new splash pad. I'm very proud of it. It's good to see it finally. But I thought maybe, just maybe, do something for somebody who would really appreciate it. I think having a little plaque embedded on that splash pad that said CrossFit Splash Pad would be so wonderful for his family and him, because he came so far. And to know that, he's going to face these things, I think it would be a reminder for him going forward to know that he meant a lot to all of us. So I don't know if that's something we could consider as a council or whatever. It's for all the things we name in this city, I mean, for me, this is a reason I can get behind. I can say, this makes sense. So just maybe something to all think about going forward. I want to thank everybody tonight for coming out and being a part of this, as always. I fear going forward when I hear things like developers building and we have to, find a way to make whatever they want to do work. That scares me because that's overreach in a big way. I don't like to put that out there, and I don't like to talk against, the state of Oregon, but I have a problem with that. We're losing ground as cities when they start reaching above us and saying, this is what we're going to do from here out. You have to make it work. Where does that work in any society? Where does it end? Where do we stop giving in to everybody and saying, okay, sure, whatever you say? It's getting ridiculous. So please think about it. Write into your senators, your congressmen, whatever you can do about this 1573 bill that's out there, and see if you can put some impact behind it. Because personally, I'm tired. I'm tired of giving in. I'm tired of saying, okay, whatever you say. So that's all I have tonight. I'm sorry about the rants, but it irks me. So thank you. And this meeting is adjourned.